Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Black Logic. Today, for your news update, we're going to talk about Elon Musk. He admits putting his thumb on the AI scale. He wants Grok AI openly biased its responses to fit his worldview. We're also going to speak about America once helped Iran build its nuclear program. Now they may bomb what it created, or in past tense, has already bombed what it created, as well as Israel. And Trump ignores U.S. intelligence, whereas live on air and sides with Netanyahu on Iran. Meanwhile, Iran votes to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. is now pressuring China, no less, to stop them. Now, that's somewhat funny, but let's jump right into your first news update here this morning. Thank you guys for joining me here in Black Logic. But nonetheless, Elon Musk admits that he wants Grok AI to be biased. So is this about to become some sort of propaganda mill AI? Because Elon Musk, again, back in the headlines, is not about rockets or cars or the nothing company. The billionaire has admitted he's going to put his thumb on the scale in his own AI platform and tweaking it to better reflect his personal views and biases. AI ethics are warning this could set a dangerous precedent when corporate or political actors decide which values get amplified in AI generated content. This could be very, very dangerous. Not saying that a lot of people who follow Tesla, a lot of people who follow Grok, a lot of people who admire and revere Elon Musk will not have a problem with this. So everything that Grok AI is going to spit out that used to be based off of information on the World Wide Web, which is tons, trillions of tons of information, will now be biased based on what Elon Musk thinks and feels. So if you want an unbiased approach to AI, I would not be looking at Grok AI if he changes the way that it responds based on what he perceives as the truth. Because now we're getting to a propaganda mill that is an AI platform that a lot of people have taken to X, also known as Twitter. So when we look at this, this is the richest man in the world asserting his dominance. And again, I'm indifferent about it when it comes to Elon Musk, what he's doing with his own platform. But I believe it needs to become very public that this may potentially be a propaganda mill of how a billionaire thinks and how he feels. I don't care how smart people think Elon Musk is. I don't think there's the smartest person in the world. Yeah, you can give somebody a test, you can curate a test, and they can get all the answers right. But I don't think that really gears. I don't really think that scales your intelligence. There's many hallmarks, there's many indicators, there's many things that can happen when someone's intelligent. I believe that all people in some regards have a sense of intelligence, more in some areas, more in other areas. But I can see this going really bad, really fast. And again, don't forget the open AI guys, the Chat GPT creators. They are indifferent when it comes to Elon Musk. It's not like they're friends or anything of that nature, ladies and gentlemen. So I just want to keep you guys aware of the platforms you may be using. Whether you like it or love it, or you hate it, or you want it to be destroyed. I'm just giving you the information that Elon Musk may be putting his thumb, as you see, on an AI scale because he wants Grok AI to respond in the way that he would, not based on all the information that's on the World Wide Web. Okay? Now, I don't know if you guys knew this, but a recent report traces Iran's, nuclear program back to the 1950s. Atoms for Peace program, where America provided reactor tech and know-how, and critics argue that the unintended consequences have now been weaponized against us, some asking if the U.S. will bomb its own handiwork. And we did. And the big question is, can you build it and then destroy it? And will the Trump administration green light this? See, there's a lot of history I want to show you guys here very quickly. I'm just going to give you the nooks and cranny if you want to research this for yourself. This is coming from EurasiaTimes.com. And it states here in 1957, the U.S. and Iran, then under the Shah post-Western regime, signed an accord to establish the Tehran Nuclear Research Center at Tehran University. By 1967, the U.S. supplied a 5-megawatt nuclear reactor and weapons-grade enriched uranium, 93.5 purity, as fuel, intended for civilian research and energy production. This assistance includes training Iranian scientists and providing technical expertise. The U.S. also supported Iran's plan for nuclear power plants, such as the Bushehr reactor, as part of a broader strategy to promote peaceful nuclear energy and prevent proliferation of military programs. However, the infrastructure had dual-use potential. The reactor could produce plutonium, a key material for nuclear weapons, through chemical reprocessing, and the enriched uranium provided a starting point for further enrichment. Now, after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the U.S. supported seized, but the knowledge, technology, and facilities remain in Iran. Iran's new leadership, initially skeptical of the nuclear program, resumed covert development in the 80s. Now, by the 1990s, Iran's expanded its program with illicit technology from Pakistan and their Khan network, building secret enrichment facilities like Natanz. The U.S. applied reactor and early training indirectly enabled Iran to develop technical expertise needed to pursue a full nuclear fuel cycle, raising concerns about its weapons potential. The U.S. did not intend to help Iran develop nuclear weapons, but its early assistance under Atoms for Peace provided the technology seized for Iran later. Now, in 1970, Iran's ratified on Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, also known as NPT, committed it to declare its nuclear material to the International Atomic Energy Agency. So basically, America gave Iran the technology and the capabilities of creating their own nukes. Now, this was, again, Atoms for Peace, for Iran to have cheap, clean energy, because that's what nuclear power is. Nuclear power is cheap, clean energy, but for some reason, all these other countries are handling, like France, Iran, they're handling their nuclear energy very safely, where they're not having issues of spillage and emitting a large radiance of radiation. So guess what the citizens are getting? The citizens are getting cheap electricity. But for some reason, America, we're still stuck in the Stone Ages when it comes to electricity. We have to put solar panels on our house to get cheap electricity. We have to use thermal energy. You know, when they come to your house and put this machine and drill down inside the ground to use the thermal energy of the earth to power. People are using wind technology and wave technology just to decrease their electric bill. I have solar panels, and those solar panels were very expensive, and I still pay a small fee for me being locked into the grid, even though I have batteries if there's some sort of storm. But I digress. The key point here is that America are the ones who gave Iran nuclear technology. The end. That's what's important here. But now we destroyed the same technology that we gave them, because we believe that somehow they're creating nuclear weapons, even though we don't have any proof and or evidence. But because Israel, these are the reports, this is not my bias, because Israel believes that they have nuclear weapons. So America like, okay, well, yeah, they have nuclear weapons. Even though Tulsi Gabbard came out and stated, we have no evidence or proof that Iran has nuclear weapons. But nonetheless, we still bombed them. We still bombed them. And critics argue that the unintended consequences have now been weaponized against us. Some asking if the U.S. will once again join into this war between Iran and Israel, even though there was a ceasefire. Are you guys familiar with this so-called 12-day war that Trump was pouting his chest upon? He like, this would be the shoulders war. We should call it the 12-day war because it was over so quickly. And there was really, not too many people were harmed during this 12-day war. And right after that, believe it or not, Israel bombed Iran, and then Iran tried to bomb Israel. So are we at a ceasefire? I do not believe so. But we're going to touch on that as well. But I want to touch on what Trump sidelined his security officials. Again, Trump sidelining a lot of his security and intelligence officials. And this goes deeper into what you think, because when he was asked about Iran's nuclear status, he reportedly shrugged. I don't care what the intel says. This is what Trump supposedly stated. He does not care what the intel says, choosing instead to echo Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's imminent threat narrative. This isn't a slip up. It's a clear shift on who's narrating the national security story. I want you guys to ask yourself this question. Other than the biblical commitment that a lot of Christians, a lot of people within the faith believe, should we just go along to get along anytime that Israel get itself in a conflict, battle, or war with another country? Should America come and save Israel? Every single time. Good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. Should America use your taxpayer dollars and go save a country who starts a lot of things in the region? Because do not forget, Israel bombed Iran first. Okay, and then Iran did a symbolic attack the same way they retaliated against America. They called up Israel and they said, hey, listen, we're going to do a coordinated attack. Wait a minute, you're letting us know that you're going to attack us? Yeah, we're going to see a couple of drones, maybe a couple of missiles. That way, a lot of your people won't get hurt and you guys can just knock it out the sky. We guys know you have the technology of the Iron Dome or some sort of anti-NATO defense system. Okay. Iran did the same thing. They told Israel. And then when America bombed Fordo, Isfahan, and Natanz, they said, we will retaliate. So they called up the officials in Qatar, in Doha, and they said, listen, we got to retaliate, but we got to make sure we stay strong with the Iranian people, with the Iranian people. So we're just letting you know we're going to shoot, 15, 16 missiles at you guys. And we know you got all sorts of anti-missile weapon systems. You can knock them right out the sky. And guess what? No one got harmed in Qatar. Out of the 40,000 troops we have in that region, not one single soldier got injured or lost their life, which is a great thing. But is Iran being human? Are they being the biggest humanitarian in the region? Are they being the most gracious out of these two powerhouses like Israel and America? Is Iran like, you know what? We don't want war. We just wanted clean, cheap energy, but you guys came and bombed it. You guys have no evidence or proof that we're building nuclear weapons. Now, even though there's been some restrictions at some of these nuclear sites and some of the barricades when it comes to other nuclear sites that Iran have in the region. So I know that does raise questions, but we have no proof. It's kind of like if you was incarcerated, you were locked up, you was detained, and they sent you to jail. And they say, oh, well, tomorrow you're going to get arraigned and then you're going to prison. Like, wait a minute, what crime did I commit? Well, you had illegal weapons in your car. What illegal weapons? I don't have. Can you show me the pictures? What evidence or proof do you have? That's where I'm at with this. And I want you guys to really think about that wholeheartedly. Trump lashes out at Israel and Iran with profanity for breaking ceasefire. Interesting enough, Trump totally lost it on live TV, cursing both Israel and Iran after they violated a fragile ceasefire. They don't know what the F they're doing, he said, before blasting media outlets for downplaying the U.S. B-2 bomber operation. No filter, no teleprompters, no strip, just raw Trump. We basically have two countries. They don't know what the F they're doing. That's what the president stated. I think that we should definitely listen in on this report here. I think this is very important for context.
Mr. President, the Middle East just woke up to a new dawn because of the ceasefire I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Are you going to see the agreement? It's a new dawn in the Middle East. Thanks to the agreement you managed to achieve. What are your future plans for the region, for Saudi Arabia, Israel, Gaza, the hostages?
Look, you're asking me about women in the Middle East. It's getting a lot better. Things are happening at a high level. As you know, Saudi Arabia's done a really good job. It's coming out far faster than I thought. So we're very happy about what's happening with women in the Middle East.
No, I'm talking about a new dawn in the Middle East that you managed to achieve last night.
Yeah.
The region is going to a new place with this agreement.
I got to get Israel to calm down now.
Did you get to speak with the Prime Minister? Did you talk to Prime Minister Netanyahu last night?
I speak to everybody.
You
urge both sides not to violate the ceasefire, but reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it, okay?
Now, basically what he's stating is that after the ceasefire, supposedly Iran fired one missile. And Trump believed that that was an error, but then Israel retaliated with a barrage of missiles to Iran. So he said he's trying to stop before, again, all scaled out war. So I'm going to let this finish up just a little bit here to provide a little bit more context.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really...
All right. He basically goes down a rabbit hole of talking, very defamatory language towards CNN, MSNBC, all the C's, legacy mass media outlets, stating that they should have gave credit to the military men and women who bombed those facilities in Iran, and that they were brave, airmen, soldiers, Marines, whatever. I don't know what necessarily what B-2 bombers, I believe, by the way, the Air Force. So the airmen and airwomen who were part of that mission who dropped those bombs, he's stating that, CNN, MSNBC stated that these bombings didn't obliterate, as President Trump stated, these nuclear facility sites, and basically say they should have gave credit to those airmen and women who actually went through with that mission of destroying that. But nonetheless, he's totally against, after we bomb Iran, he's totally against them violating the peace treaty, Israel as well as Iran. He stated that he has to get involved and play both sides so they can stop before they are full-fledged out war. But in the midst of all of this, Secretary of State Rubio has urged China, yes, China, to stop Iran from shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. That critical oil choke point accounts for 20% of daily energy flow. Rubio described a potential closure as economic suicide for Iran, but warned it would have global ripple effects. Now, the U.S. is calling in a favor from Beijing. How is that going to pan out? How is that going to pan out, a favor from China, after all we have said and after all we have done? Right or wrong or indifferent? How is that going to pan out? If you were China, let's play the other side. If you were China and America called you to have you to stop Iran from closing the Strait of Hormuz, which is very important to America. We're talking about 20% oil prices will rise all over the world if this occurs. If you were China, what would you do? Would you broker a deal? Would you say absolutely not, suffer in pain? Because again, when I look at how the Chinese conduct business, they have these meetings every year and they look out a lot of the large billionaire businessmen in China, every year, I think it's every year or every 5 years, they meet and they plan for the next 50 to 100 years. So I wonder if this is a longer strategy. And it's something that I wanted to mention about Iran as well. Could Iran be playing a very dangerous game? What do I mean by that? Iran attacked Israel in a symbolic attack by letting them know they were going to attack them and where. The same thing they did with the U.S. by calling up Qatar officials stating that we're going to send some missiles your way. And this is to show that we're still strong against America. You're not going to just beat up on it. It's a symbolic gesture to their people. Again, I can understand why Iran done it because you don't want to go to war with Israel and America. But could this be a guise that in some facilities that we may not be aware of, that's deep inside the ground, 50 feet, 100 feet underground, where satellites can't detect, and you may have some sort of sheet and radiation shields that we can't penetrate to see or to detect anything? Could they be secretly creating a nuclear bomb? I'm just asking questions. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of military analysts and strategists are probably thinking the same thing. Why are they not really trying to attack? Now, of course, I'm not going to attack America, right? America's like 10 large black guys with muscles. You're going to get your butt whooped, right? The point I'm making here is now Israel, they could beat Israel all day, in my opinion. Without America's help, Iran, this is my personal opinion, Iran could definitely beat Israel. We're talking about 92 million versus 9.7 million. Even though Israel has some of our advanced technology, Iran has access to other Middle Eastern countries with technology and armament and bombardments, all sorts of things they could actually do. But could they just be playing scared duck while they're planning out their attack and simultaneously creating a nuclear bomb? I'm just asking questions. I wonder why they're not attacking and then letting us know when and where and how they will attack us. But there's definitely something else I want to speak about this morning. I saw this video clip on X, and I really wanted to talk about it because I think it's imperative of the relationships that we have with other people. Not just other people, but other so-called minorities. Other people who are in this country that have not been here since the inception of this country in 1776. I want to speak about relations because we talked about the relation between Hispanics and blacks. We talked about the relation between blacks and whites, but we really don't talk about, we talk about it, but not in depth. We don't really give a very intelligent outlook of how Asians has been looked upon as the model minority. So before I go into my comprehensive breakdown, I do want to share this video clip with you. It's very short, but this will provide some context for the next segment.
But safer. But in doing that, they can be like, ha, model minority. If the Asians can do it, why can't you do it? And so we created a wedge as people of color against other people of color.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And then like the riots in LA, the wedge theory came in crazy because professionals from Asia came, but they're not allowed to be doctors here. But they can get a loan because they're proximity to whiteness. But they can only get a loan in black neighborhoods.
Right.
Where black people couldn't get loans.
Right.
And so there's that automatic tension. I say we as an Asian, like we heard about America and we learned that to survive in this country, we needed to align ourselves with whiteness and not blackness because we didn't want to catch that smoke, essentially. So we aligned ourselves with whiteness. And so proximity to whiteness keeps us, quote unquote, safer. But in doing that, they can be like, ha, model minority. If the Asians can do it, why can't you do it? And so we created a wedge as people of color against other people of color.
That's the context that I want you guys to hang on to during this next segment here. Because again, I think it's important that we speak about this. Hispanics are coming out in droves, and they are essentially talking about the N-word and how they can say it because they're in close proximity of Black people and in Black neighborhoods. But just like Asians, I want to give you guys just a little bit of history, because I think, again, in order for us to understand in full context, history has to just kind of be, mentioned. Because we've been called many things: unruly, militant, angry. But the truth is, we've always been righteous. We didn't wait to be granted rights. We demanded them. We marched for them, bled for them, died for them. Black Americans have always been the true model, the prototype for the resistance, the gold standard for cultural innovation, the heart and soul of American excellence. But somewhere along the way, another group was quietly ushered in and handed a myth, the model minority myth, a lie dressed as praise, and many Asian communities bought into it, clinging tightly to a badge of acceptance that was never meant to empower, but to divide. But here's the irony, folks. Have Asians forgotten about the Chinese Exclusion Act? Because America hasn't. I know some people are stating, well, that was the Chinese. No, at that point in time in the 1800s, America looked at all Asian people as Chinese, even though there was all sorts of other Asians from other Asian countries in America during that time. They looked at everybody as Asian. This is how they looked at it. In 1882, the U.S. government passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, the first federal law to ban an entire ethnic group from entering the United States. Why? Because Chinese immigrants, after building America's railroads, as they say, and of course, this was 60 years after Black Americans built the first railroad, Chinese immigrants came over and helped Black Americans to build the rest of the railroads in America. But the only time you hear about the railroads that the Chinese built the railroads, that is untrue. The first railroads, again, were built by Black Americans, some enslaved and some freed. And then the majority of all the other railroads were built with Black Americans and Chinese immigrants. Now, the Chinese were also working, in gold mines and sweatshops, and were suddenly seen as a threat to white jobs and white purity. That sounds familiar, does it not? To my Foundation of Black American Family, that sounds familiar. The law borrowed Chinese laborers from immigrating and denied citizenship to those already here. It made Chinese people perpetual foreigners, unwanted, disposable for over 60 years. This Exclusion Act was in place. Chinese immigrants were denied legal entry. They were denied citizenship. They were denied dignity in a country that they helped somewhat build. So let that sink in, because white supremacy doesn't love anyone but itself. It used Chinese labor. It used Black labor. And then it discarded those Chinese bodies. And when it no longer needed to exploit it, it excluded it. But yet today, many Asians, they still believe in the model minority myth. But a lot of Asian communities ignore the truth and seek proximity to whiteness rather than justice. They embrace the model minority, forgetting that the same system that once criminalized their existence now uses them as a buffer, as a distraction, as a political pawn to undermine Black progress. So let's be real. The model was never the minority. The model was the Black American. See, while we are excluded, we was also enslaved. And while they were excluded, we were enslaved. While they were denied entry, we were denied humanity. And still, we rose up out of that. And we innovated and we created. We gave the world open heart surgery. The microphone, mic check 1 2 1 2. The microphone, the cell phone. Look it up if you don't believe me. The traffic light, the super soaker. We birthed jazz, blues, bluegrass, soul, hip hop, rock and roll, and yes, our beloved country. We turned trauma into triumph, oppression into art, and chains into charge. We're the reason the Voting Rights Act exists, the reason civil rights legislation passed. We didn't ride waves, we made the waves. And while many communities remain silent, like the Asian and Hispanic community and all these other ethnic groups therein, they remain silent or complicit. We kept marching. We kept resisting. We kept creating. So today, if you align yourself with whiteness to be accepted, if you look down on Black people while standing on our shoulders, ask yourself, have you forgotten your own history in America? Because white supremacy hasn't. It doesn't love you. It just doesn't hate you as much. But don't get it twisted. When you stand against us, you're siding with the system that excluded you, exploited you, and erased your name when it's convenient. And if you believe you surpassed us because of labels and proximity, remember this: we are not a footnote. We are the foundation. So let's get back to truth. Let's get back to solidarity built on honesty, not this hierarchy. That's what people are looking at. Could we rewind the clock very quickly? I want to rewind the clock, if you guys can just bear with me. I won't be long. Let's rewind the clock back to the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, a law that opened the gates for highly educated Asians to migrate to America, right at the peak of the civil rights movement. While Black Americans were bleeding in Selma and marching in Montgomery and dying in the Deep South just to be recognized as human beings, a new wave of immigrants was welcomed in with opportunity, education, silence, and financial support. And these new arrivals were positioned not beside us, but above us, in our neighborhoods, but above us. As she stated here, they were granted loans, but we wasn't. But they were only granted loans in Black neighborhoods. That's why every time you guys go a lot to these Black neighborhoods, right? You go to these Black neighborhoods and you see Korean nail shops, you see Chinese food places. They have all of their businesses, majority of them, in Black neighborhoods, with the exception of Indians from East India. Okay, with the exception of them. But a lot of these so-called model minorities understand how they got their position, and that they got that position by situating themselves close to whiteness.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And then like the riots in LA, the wedge theory came in crazy because professionals from Asia came, but they're not allowed to be doctors here. But they can get a loan because they're proximity to whiteness. But they can only get a loan in Black neighborhoods. Right. Where Black people couldn't get loans. Right. So
I'm not making this up. And a lot of them know this history. There's only very few of them are willing to tell the truth. There's very, very few of them that are willing to actually tell the truth, because then they'll be snitching on themselves. They'll be snitching on themselves. They were labeled a model minority as a contrast to the so-called unruly Black protesters. They didn't earn it. They were handed it. So long as they didn't challenge white power. No. We're not going to come in here and start no ruckus. We just want jobs and opportunities and build a couple of restaurants and nail shops and beauty supply stores, etc. While we protested, and organize and force the hand of America to pass legislation from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Others benefited. They walked through the door that we kicked open with our blood and our brilliance. Again, we've done many things in this country. So, yet while we built, Asian communities often align themselves with the system, many participating in redlining against us. Again, I repeat, many of them participating in redlining against us, setting up shops in our neighborhoods, but never standing with us and never hiring none of us. Yeah, you created jobs in the Black community, but every single employee is Asian, not Black. And she talked about LA. During the 1992 uprising, tensions exploded, not because Black people hate Asians, because we do not, but because capitalism pits poor communities against each other while the elite sits back and watches. We must remember anti-Blackness is global. It's global. It's not just white supremacy. It's white alignment, and many Asian communities have chosen proximity to whiteness over solidarity with Black struggle. So let's be very clear. The model was never the minority, and the model was the Black American. The very fight for freedom in this nation has always been led by Black hands. That is why they want us out in these ICE protests. Because of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., because of Malcolm X, because of Fred Hampton, because of the Black Panther Party, because of the Black Liberation Army. And before them, Harriet Tubman, Nat Turner, Sojourner Truth, Denmark Vesey, warriors who never asked for permission to be free. We didn't wait for liberation, we demanded it. So today, when we hear about the so-called model minorities, we must interrogate it. We must really question it. Who created that term? Who benefits from that lie? It's not a compliment, it's a cage meant to isolate us and divide others from standing with us. We can't fight for liberation with people who seek to replace us in the struggle. That is why foundational Black Americans have delineated from almost everybody, because we understand, by the way, of our master teacher, John Henry Clark, that Black Americans have no friends. We have no friends. Everybody has been pitted against us, either by themselves or their proximity and closeness to white ideology and whiteness. They came to Black communities during that time and exploited Black communities. And instead of boycotting, we accepted this. We patronized their stores. We bought their products, even though to this day we have movies that depict the racism and the stereotypical nature of Asians in stores in Black neighborhoods, where they're always watching us as we're going through the aisles. Did some Black people steal some stuff? Of course they did, but not all of us. You guys remember that famous scene, "Hurry up and buy"? You guys remember that? That was just a small glint at what Black people go through in Asian establishments during that time, and still in some regards till this day. Hopefully we do not forget. And here's the thing about Black Americans: we don't hate anybody. We hate injustice, and we hate that people have been pitted over us and against us because of their proximity to whiteness and the ideology that they follow, that as long as I can be above the Blacks, I'm good. As long as those opportunities are presented and provided for my people, we can join in together and look down on Black people. No matter the establishments that they have created, no matter the fights that they have that they've been part of, that passed tons of legislation to help us to be seen as equal in this country. I don't think you guys heard her correctly. And for you guys that's joining in, thank you for joining Black Logic. But I do want to again provide just a little bit of context for you guys.
I say we as an Asian, like we heard about America and we learned that to survive in this country, we needed to align ourselves with whiteness and not blackness because we didn't want to catch that smoke, essentially. So we aligned ourselves with whiteness. And so proximity to whiteness keeps us, quote unquote, safer. But in doing that, they can be like, ha, model minority. If the Asians can do it, why can't you do it? And so we created a wedge as people of color against other people of color.
Yeah. And I must point this out before I forget. Do not forget COVID-19 was an anti-Asian hate crime act that now make Asian Americans a protected class. Now, when we look at the Department of Justice and we look at the FBI crime data, Black Americans have the most assaults based upon race than any other group, more than Asians, more than Jewish folk. We are attacked because we're Black more so than any other group. We're talking about by the brutality in some police officers, as well as your everyday white supremacists that walk around like regular white people. Because not all white people are white supremacists. I'm not stating that. But the ideology that these human beings, or rather they're not human beings, are less than me because of their skin color. Think about that. How crazy is that? You're less than me because you have dark skin. And that's why you have all this colorism around the world. You go to Nigeria, colorism. They want to whiten up their skin with cake soap and lightning cream. You go to India, same thing. You go to Jamaica, same thing. A lot of these areas that were colonized by the British or colonized in general, a lot of them are suffering from colorism. Their proximity to whiteness. That's why you hear some Hispanics like, oh, I consider myself white. Wait a minute. So your history is the indigenous people of Central and some parts of North America. And you come from Native American tribes like the Mayans, the Aztecians, the Taínos, the Spanish conquistadors, invaders that pillage, rob, and rape your women that you're mixed with, but now you consider yourself, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a whole thing. And then like the riots in LA, the wedge theory came in crazy because professionals from Asia came, but they're not allowed to be doctors here. But they can get a loan because they're proximity to whiteness. But they can only get a loan in Black neighborhoods.
Right.
Let me know when I start to lie. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon.